The amphitheater of the Coalition Military Academy was carved from black volcanic stone, its tiered seating rising in concentric rings around a holographic display platform. 300 cadets from 41 species sat in attentive silence, their multifaceted eyes, sensory stalks, and audio membranes all directed toward the lone human figure standing at the center of the platform. Darian Voss stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his dress uniform crisp despite the 3 days of travel it had taken him to reach this remote training world. He was the first human ever invited to address the Academy's senior tactical class, and the weight of that fact hung in the recycled air like static electricity. Commander Zyrex, a tall Valkyrie instructor with iridescent scales and 4 arms, paced along the platform's edge. His translator unit hummed softly, converting his clicking native speech into Coalition standard for the recording devices. "Cadets," Zyrex began, his voice carrying easily without amplification, "today we have an unprecedented opportunity. Sergeant Voss represents a species that joined the Coalition only 6 years ago, yet has already become the subject of considerable discussion among our intelligence analysts." A ripple of murmurs passed through the crowd. Several cadets exchanged glances, skeptical, curious, some openly dismissive. Zyrex continued, "Before we begin the tactical seminar, I want to address something directly, because I know it is on all your minds." He turned to face Darian. "Sergeant, I will ask you the question that has been circulating through every officer's mess hall in the Coalition for the past year. What is the average kill ratio for a single Earth Marine in sustained combat operations?" The amphitheater went silent. Even the ambient hum of the climate system seemed to fade into the background. Darian considered the question for a long moment. He understood why it mattered. Numbers were currency in military academies. They were how species measured each other, how doctrine got written, how budgets got allocated. The Coalition had spent decades calibrating expectations around 4 established models of warfare: the overwhelming numbers of the Skarn Collective, the technological superiority of the Valkyrie Compact, the disciplined formations of the Theshan Concord, and the guerrilla adaptability of the Outer Rim mercenary bands. Humanity didn't fit any of those models cleanly. And that, Darian had learned, made people nervous. "Commander," Darian said, his voice even, "I want to answer that honestly, but I need you to understand something first. The number you're asking for doesn't exist in the way you think it does." A Theshan cadet in the second row, broad-shouldered, with the segmented carapace common to her species, made a small sound of disbelief. "Every unit has a kill ratio, Sergeant. It is basic data." "For most engagements, sure," Darian agreed. "If a Theshan platoon holds a position against a Skarn assault, you can count the dead on both sides and divide. Clean math. Predictable variables. But Earth doctrine isn't built around clean math." Zyrex's scales shifted color slightly, a Valkyrie tell for genuine curiosity. "Explain." Darian gestured to the holographic display, and the platform system synced with his neural interface, pulling up a tactical map from his personal archive. It showed the Kasari Ridge engagement from 18 months earlier, a battle that had made it into Coalition briefings but had never been fully explained to outside forces. "This was a joint operation," Darian said. 42 Earth Marines were assigned to hold a logistics corridor against what intelligence estimated as a battalion-strength Skarn force, roughly 1,200 combatants, while Theshan and Valkyrie units evacuated civilian convoys through the rear. The Theshan cadet leaned forward. "I am familiar with this engagement. The official record states the position held for 11 hours. "It held for 11 hours, Darian confirmed. "And at the end of it, Coalition analysts tried to calculate our kill ratio the standard way. Confirmed Skarn casualties divided by Marine casualties. They got a number. It was a big number. It made it into 3 different journals." "And the problem with that number?" Zyrex asked. "The problem," Darian said, "is that it assumes the engagement was fought the way Skarn doctrine assumes engagements are fought. Position held, position defended, attrition counted. But that's not what happened. 26 of those 42 Marines weren't holding the line in the way your sensors recorded. They were moving, infiltrating the Skarn rear lines, sabotaging their armor resupply, collapsing 2 of their command tents before the enemy even realized the corridor itself was a feint. He let that settle for a moment before continuing. The kill ratio you want me to give you assumes a fixed equation, 1 Marine, 1 outcome, repeatable across contexts. But Earth Marines aren't trained to produce a consistent ratio. We're trained to identify what a battle actually needs and become that thing. Sometimes that means standing in a trench and trading shots until the math favors us. Sometimes it means becoming 60 individual problems the enemy commander has to solve simultaneously, each one different from the last, none of them following the model his sensors predicted. A young Valkyrie cadet near the front raised one of his upper arms. Then give us a range. An estimate. Surely there is data. Darien nodded slowly. There's data. Across every engagement we've logged with the Coalition, the ratio ranges from roughly 4-1 in our worst documented loss, to past 80-1 in operations like Kasari Ridge. He paused. But Commander Zyrex asked for the average. And averaging that range produces a number so wide it's functionally useless for predicting what will happen in your next engagement against a human unit. That's the actual answer to his question. There isn't a stable number, because we don't fight to produce one. We fight to win the specific fight in front of us, and we adapt the model every time. The amphitheater had gone very quiet. Zyrex's tail swayed once, slowly, a gesture Darien had learned meant the Valkyrie equivalent of careful reconsideration. You're saying, Zyrex said, that the unpredictability itself is the doctrine. I'm saying the unpredictability is the point, Darien replied. Every species in this room built its military tradition around a strength that could be modeled, scaled, and taught consistently. That's not a flaw, it's smart. It's how you build officers who can plan with confidence. But humanity came into the Coalition without an established model, fighting wars on a single planet against itself for thousands of years, against opponents who were also human, who could anticipate every standard tactic because they'd invented those tactics too. So our doctrine evolved around always finding the thing the opponent didn't expect. We don't have a kill ratio because a kill ratio implies a repeating pattern, and the day Earth Marines start repeating patterns is the day we stop being effective. The Theshan cadet spoke again, her tone less skeptical now, almost wary. Then how does one prepare to fight your kind? Darien allowed the faintest, humorless smile. Cadet, that's the right question. And honestly, my corps would tell you the same thing my drill instructor told me on my first day of training: you don't prepare for a single answer. You prepare to keep solving new problems faster than the other side can present them. That's not a number you can put in a briefing. That's a mindset. And it's the only export Earth has ever offered the Coalition that can't be measured, copied, or countered with better armor. Commander Zyrex stood motionless for a long moment, his forearms folded in what Darien had come to recognize as the Valkyrie posture of formal respect. Then he turned to the assembled cadets, his translator carrying his voice across the silent amphitheater. Cadets, Zyrex said, I brought Sergeant Voss here today expecting a number. Instead, he has given us something considerably more dangerous to ignore, a method. He paused. Take from this what you will. But understand that any species which builds its entire warfighting philosophy around becoming whatever the situation requires is not a threat you defeat with superior firepower. It is a threat you can only hope to never face. No one in the amphitheater spoke. 300 cadets from 41 worlds sat with the uncomfortable knowledge that the most dangerous soldiers in the Coalition were the ones who refused, on principle, to be predictable, and that humanity, alone among the stars, had built an entire military culture around exactly that.